What's up, guys, and welcome back to a brand new episode of the NeoVintage podcast. I am Jabril, and I am with
Steve. Hope everyone's doing well.
And for you guys who have never seen the show before, we're just two guys that like to talk over the biggest stories in gaming. But we always like to start with what we've been playing. So, Steve, let me know what you've been playing.
All right, so a little change up, not too crazy, but so still playing Maneater, doing my usual stuff in there. I gave the game a lot of praise last week. I still feel the other stuff. I've gotten to the point where I'm like I'm super big. I can eat a lot of things. Not much is a challenge. There's a few challenges left. Some bigger predators in the ocean, but I go in there and kind of clean it out just a little bit every once in a while, because I don't want to oversaturate myself with that game. I went back and completed Sackboy's a little big adventure, whatever it's called. Sackboy's a big adventure. Completed the main campaign, which was really fun. It unlocks some after end game content, which makes you have to go back, clean up some stuff to unlock some extra levels and stuff, which is fantastic because you're really getting your money's worth with this. So I'm doing that as well, just trying to complete some extra levels. Complete 100% of certain things, like get all the collectibles in. Usual platform collectathons kind of situation with that. Then I did stop quickly into the world of Resident Evil Village with the Maiden demo.
Yep.
And I enjoyed it. I played it a few times because I kept thinking back to the kitchen demo, which they did for Resident Evil 7, where there was a lot of Easter eggs and different paths you can take. This one you really can't. There's really only one pathway. It's more of a showcase. The way that now they're trying to talk it as it's a showcase, not a demo. That there'll be maybe a gameplay demo down the road, and the game comes out in May, so I don't really know if we need that. But the game's gorgeous. It looks really good on the RE engine. The RE engine, it's one of my favorite engines now. We praise it all the time. It did great in the 2 Resident Evil remakes. It did great in Resident Evil 7. Devil May Cry looks fantastic in it. So it's exciting to be back in this world. I forgot how creepy this whole first-person stuff is with Resident Evil, because the whole time I'm playing it, because I didn't watch anyone play it, as soon as it went up, I pretty much played it. And, the whispering, and I played it with the headset, the whispering in one ear, and then it's just spooky. It says some scary stuff. But it was exciting to be back in that world. I'm really excited to see more. I saw the small trailer that they had, and we got a release date and everything like that for Resident Evil, so that's all really great. Obviously, the only other thing I've been playing in where most of my time has been in IO's Hitman 3, which is, I had replayed 1 and 2, obviously, before, and obviously this even compiles it even more together, so Hitman 3 it's more of the great thing that is this new World of Assassination trilogy, the way they describe it, and the levels are fantastic. I love it. I haven't gotten to all the maps yet, but some of these levels are huge, like that mansion. And I know you'll get into it as well, but that mansion level where there's this whole murder mystery going on that's got nothing to do with you, but the fact that you can really follow that, I got lost in that storyline of figuring out who killed who and for what reason, and then I realized that it wasn't even part of what I was supposed to be doing, which is one of the charms of the game. You can really follow those story beats so well and get so deep dived into it and just delve into it that's what you're supposed to do in the game, and then it's oh yeah, I'm supposed to kill somebody and get the secret files and stuff like that, it's fantastic the way they did it. Now I'm in the Tokyo or the China level. I keep saying Tokyo. I'm in the China level. Looks super neon. Love it. Gotta kill certain people. I don't want to do too much spoilers since the game did just drop, but I'm really loving it, and I love taking my time with it. I feel like I don't need to be rushed with it, where I try to mainstream it where I'm I just gotta kill these guys, but I can't just, how it is, you can't just pull a pistol out, kill somebody and run, because it's not gonna work, especially in that Berlin level, which is that underground club where everywhere I turned there was either tech, security, or these people, flipping out on dope, going nuts, and they would rat me out. But I like figuring out the system. I like the trial and error, where every step I do feel like I'm growing in it. So fantastic job. I'm so excited for IO and this whole weird saga that Hitman's went from, going from Square to WB to being able to do this pretty much all on their own. It's really exciting for them. I just can't wait to keep playing more of that Hitman. So what else have you been playing?
Yeah, so for me, it's been a lot of Hitman. Also, I've been really, really loving this game. I've actually been really, really impressed by it. I have played the entire trilogy, not to completion, I don't think. Maybe like the second one I may have not beat or something like that. But this one, for me personally, is probably my favorite one of the three. I'm really, really having a good time. Of criticisms, the only thing I would say is that there's a pretty massive disparity between what's offered on particular missions, so it's a little bit uneven. Like, for example, the China one is so much more content-filled and massive and so many branching storylines. Mm-hmm. Same thing with the mansion compared to some of the other places that they offer in the game. And there's no real rhyme or reason for that necessarily. Like, it's not like a cascading thing where, like, you start out with the lighter ones and then towards the end, the last three missions you do are, like, much bigger, much longer. Not really. Like, there's long ones in the beginning, there's a long one in the middle, then some of the ones towards the end are actually pretty light and easy. Not easy, but it's a little easier to get to your target than some of the previous ones. Specifically, that China one is like a unique challenge. Same thing with Dubai and stuff like that. So, yeah, no, I'm really, really liking the game. I'm definitely going to go back to it. There's lots to do in that game. I kind of just mainlined it and was basically like, drop me into the map, I'll kill the target, and then see the little cutscene, see what the game has to offer from a narrative standpoint. Mm-hmm. Then I'll go back and kind of experience whatever alternate missions there are to do it. I did kind of I was like, oh, I want to play Hitman 2, but then I remembered I had it like on disc, and to buy it digitally again would be like $60. So I'm gonna try to figure out something so I can be able to play Hitman 2, because I do want to go back and play the trilogy again. But yeah, I'm having a really, really good time with that. Still playing Kingdom Hearts as well. We're in Halloween Town right now. We're probably on the latter half of Halloween Town, so we're pretty deep into the game. I don't remember exactly where that is in the story. I know of the mission or the worlds that are offered in this game. After Halloween Town, I know I got like the Peter Pan one. I know there's like, I think we might go to Hollow Bastion in this game, but that might be a Chain of Memories thing. I don't remember. So yeah, I'm somewhere in the latter half of the story, but me and Alyssa are trying our best to beat this game. Admittedly, I have not been pulling my weight, because like every time they spawn too many enemies, I just pass through the controller. I'm like, nah, we're not doing that. Like after I like kill a whole, yeah, man, I hated the what's it called, the Little Mermaid world. Like, it's so annoying with the following the currents, and they keep spawning enemies. And
so I'm glad they make that a quick time event or music levels in the sequel.
Yeah, and that's why. Yeah, it makes me excited to get to Kingdom Hearts 2. That's the only reason why I'm probably still motivated to beat Kingdom Hearts 1, is just because I love 2 so much. And Chain of Memories is cool too from a narrative standpoint, because obviously it introduces the nobodies and stuff like that. But yeah, it's been a pretty chill week for me. I'm kind of in a transitionary period where I'm kind of waiting for the Medium to drop. That's on 29th or something like that. So that's next week on Xbox. So I'm kind of I'm waiting for that. After that, I know Returnal is going to be a thing that I'm probably going to jump into. So there's a couple things on the horizon that I'm waiting on that are going to be probably like a little bit low-key games for me. They're not like ones that I'm like over the moon excited, like Horizon levels. But it's something new. I want to see these games that are proper next-gen titles again. We got a couple that were at launch, but obviously launch next-gen games are just... they're a little different. Like they don't take advantage of the hardware as much, obviously. Because the console hasn't been long, they haven't had it and they've been able to tinker with it as long. But now that we're heading into 2021, I'm excited to see what like some of the third parties do with this next gen hardware and stuff like that. I did also notice one thing that I wanted to mention to you. So we've played a number of PS5 games. How many PS5 games have you even seen take advantage of the DualSense like adaptive triggers and stuff like that? Like newer ones, because I haven't bumped into any.
I know Hitman has it for the guns.
Yeah. I haven't seen like a ton of utilization of the DualSense's abilities.
Not really. Besides like the first early games, like I mean, Miles had the slight thing. I'm trying to think.
Call of Duty.
Demon's Souls didn't really have it. Call of Duty had it for the guns as well, and that's kind of it. I'm trying to think. Yeah, I'm playing the PlayStation 5 version of Mortal Kombat, the free upgrade they gave me. That doesn't have anything. I know Sackboy's Big Adventure has some.
Okay, because I was bumping into that thing where I was like, I know like it was gonna probably be a first party skewed thing, but I was like, we're not even close to a year of this console being out, and it seems like it's not necessarily going by the wayside, but it's not a priority for some people putting their consoles on their games on the PS5, and that actually is surprising me this early on, where even some of like the Wii U nonsense they played around with a little bit. Like Ubisoft gave it a shot, you know what I mean? So
yeah,
I'm just curious to see if this DualSense thing is actually supported long term by anyone but the first party. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we probably won't see like a true use of it again probably till Ratchet. I feel like that Ratchet and Clank will probably, it also just fits it more to be a little bit more quirky. I'm sure Horizon will have it for like the bow and things like that. But,
all the first party stuff.
All the first party stuff for sure. I'm trying to think. I don't know. I don't think I'm gonna play Far Cry there. But Far Cry will probably have it for the guns as well.
Oh, gotcha. You can do Xbox for that one?
Yeah, I probably will.
Okay, gotcha.
I usually get those on Xbox.
Gotcha. All right, yeah, no, I just randomly thought of that, and I was like, yeah, we've played different games on the PS5, so I wanted to know if you bumped into it maybe more than me.
Yeah, I don't think Maneater has anything. Devil May Cry, I don't remember having anything.
No, I did. Or it maybe had vibrations, but nothing.
The vibrations, but not.
Yeah,
much,
nothing new.
Godfall. I don't remember Godfall having anything really. It's been a while. I haven't played Godfall in a while, but I don't remember it having.
I've seen some people mentioning Greedfall, and I kept getting confused. I was like, wait, Greedfall, and I was like, oh, Godfall. I was thinking of. Okay, gotcha.
Oh yeah.
All right, so I guess we can move on to the first story. This was a fun one this week. It was hilarious. So Microsoft confirmed on Friday that the cost of a 1-month subscription is going up by $1, while 3-month subscriptions will now cost $5 more. So the new pricing structure for the Xbox Live Gold at that time would have been 1 month for $11, 3 months for $30, 6 months for $60. So obviously a year would cost you about $120. People did not react well to that, as you would imagine, and they made their voices heard. So surprisingly, Microsoft announced that it's reversing its plans regarding the Xbox Live Gold price increase, and they released the following statement, and in the story that we're going to link down below from GameSpot, they're going to have links to all the tweets and stuff like that if you would like to see what Xbox had to say about all this. But they said, "We messed up today, and you were right to let us know. Connecting and playing with friends is a vital part of gaming, and we failed to meet the expectations of players who count on it every day. As a result, we have decided not to change the Xbox Live Gold pricing. We're turning this moment as an opportunity to bring Xbox Live Gold in line with how we see the player at the center of their experience. For free-to-play games, you will no longer need Xbox Live Gold membership." That's a big one, to play those games on Xbox. "We are working hard to deliver this change as soon as possible in the coming months. If you are a Live Gold member already, you stay at your current price for renewal, and new and existing members can continue to enjoy Xbox Live Gold for the same prices that they pay today. In the US, $9.99 for 1 month, $24.99 for 3 months, and $39.99 for 6 months. And then you could do $60 for retail 12 months. That's usually the one I go for. So a full reversal course. They tried something, did not work. Quick response. But and obviously some people are debating that whole, them releasing something then going back on it. But the big thing that I feel like is going overlooked is obviously the fact that for free-to-play games, they're no longer going to require the Xbox Live subscription. And so that's kind of interesting that if they want a proper free experience, you can finally have a proper free experience in that game. Because obviously that's been the criticism for some people where it's like, oh, the game's free-to-play, but it's not really free-to-play because you need these subscription services to play. So if you're getting an Xbox for the first time and you're like, oh, I just want to play certain, I don't know, like a Fortnite, not necessarily Fortnite or something like that. For some of those type of games, you're going to need the subscription, so it's not really a free endeavor. You have some degree of a subscription or a monthly payment to make. And obviously, that's been the major criticism from people who are like in the PC ecosystem, which is like these console manufacturers make people pay for online, for example. And so them increasing the price obviously had a visceral reaction for people who probably already feel like they pay too much already to begin with for something maybe they feel like they should get for free or closer to free than they do already. What was your thoughts about all this?
Yeah, it was very strange when I saw the original. Post that they're like, oh, we're upping gold. First of all, I forgot gold was still a thing because come on. But I do realize that it's still a staple for some people. There are people who do.
Gold is different than Ultimate, right?
Well, yeah, because we have Game Pass Ultimate, which includes gold.
Oh, okay, got you.
Gold would be just the
online portion.
Like online portion, and then the PS Plus.
Okay, gotcha.
So when I initially saw this, and I was like, man, $120 a year. Because to use your own internet. That's not even Game Pass. That's just to use your own internet. I'm like, that's kind of insane. I'm like, wow, that's really insane. And I started thinking, I'm like, this has to be them pushing people to Game Pass. I was like, they're gonna be like, well, listen, if you're gonna pay $11 a month, you could pay $15 a month. I think is what Ultimate ends up.
Yeah.
It's like $15 a month or something. So I'm like, because at that point, for $4 more, you can get this whole thing of games and all, EA Play and all that kind of stuff. I'm like, this has to be them closing the gap. And then I saw the reactions, and it was insane. People were really upset. Then you had even the Call of Duty, official Call of Duty news, Twitter tweeting out, "Listen, guys, this is hey, we're sorry to hear this, but this is the only place you need that you need to pay for online." They're like, Warzone's free everywhere else on PC, on PlayStation 4. You don't need and PS5. You don't need Plus or anything to play those there. Fortnite was the same way. Apex Legends was the same way, where it's like Xbox is the only place you need to have gold to play online, to play those games, and those games are solely online. So it was really, really shocking, the reaction. It was a little nuts, because that's when all the PC community came out and was just destroying us. Not us necessarily, but the people who were reacting so well. It's like $120 to use your internet. And I'm like, that is very true. And I knew that Microsoft would fix this. I knew that they would kind of restructure this. I did not know that it was going to be a couple hours later and they would restructure it. But it's insane. It's really good that they finally came out and were like, listen, we're going to change our method, free-to-play games, and we'll no longer need Xbox Live Gold to play. And they're going to slowly roll that out. They say it has to be like a game-by-game basis. I don't know really what that even means, but at least people playing Fortnite, people playing Apex, Warzone, which the biggest 3 ones right now, those people won't have to keep paying for online if that's the only game they play. These guys are people spending tons of money, and I'm surprised that they're finally doing this, because this goes back to 360 days, where even if you wanted to use YouTube, Netflix apps on the 360, you needed Xbox Live Gold. I didn't know that. This was a thing. Yeah, this was a thing. Where that's why I used to use my PS3 Prime, for all that, all streaming. Streaming wasn't what it was now, but Netflix and YouTube were huge. To do that on 360, I had to have gold, and I didn't have gold on 360 for a long time because I couldn't afford it, and PS3's online was free. So I'm glad they're finally kind of getting with the times. I'm imagine on your phone, just because you don't have cellular service, you can't use Wi-Fi to watch Netflix and stuff. It just would be it's such an old way of thinking and of tethering these things together. But I'm glad they finally kind of got shooken up a little bit, because Xbox does get a lot of praise for doing a lot of consumer things, and they keep forgetting. A lot of people just had forgot this was a thing, that you need to pay them to play free games that you can play free elsewhere.
Yeah, I had completely forgotten that. So it's nuts.
Yeah, it was a wild time, but I'm glad they were able to kind of patch it up really quick. But this goes to show you, just because Xbox has a lot of goodwill, these little sneaky moves. Because at first, we're moving our month up $1, and this is going up $5. We're not gonna tell you the 6-month went up $20, and we're not gonna necessarily tell you that now a year to use your internet is $120. And,
this was a reminder that, hey, you have to remember that the player's first thing, as awesome as that is a marketing campaign that was launched by Xbox to create that narrative. And so that doesn't mean that you need to let up from the gas and not hold them accountable to the decisions that they make, because you best believe at the end of the day they are a corporate entity and they're going to try to find profits wherever possible. And it's up to the consumer to ensure to let them know where those limits are, of what you're going to accept and what you're not going to accept. And I'm glad that they were at least quickly receptive to that and willing to reverse course, which is just, such a 180 from where they were at one point, where Xbox, think where they were at the beginning of the Xbox One generation in terms of some of the criticisms were launched that way. It's like, oh, if you want an offline device, get the 360. It's like going from that to where they are now. I can appreciate the progress, but obviously you got to keep their foot to the fire, because they'll slip up if you don't.
Yeah, it was one of the funniest tweets, and I guess I'll end it with that. One of the funniest tweets I saw was people really obviously upset over the price. They're like, why are they making us pay for this Bethesda deal? And I lost my mind, because I thought funny. It was hilarious. And I had no way to explain it to my wife why I was dying of laughter, because it's true. You spent a lot of money on Bethesda. Now you want the internet to go up 100, double fold, pretty much.
Them shareholders saw them numbers and be like, you better make that up somewhere.
Yeah, I don't know. Which also shows you how big the Xbox Live Gold community still is. Because I was always like, I wonder who's still doing that. Who just doesn't have Game Pass? Who doesn't have Ultimate, I mean. And it shows that people are really stuck to that Xbox Live Gold. And Xbox Live, what used to be Bronze and Platinum, which have been eliminated. I think this was sort of the movement to try to get rid of Gold and then just have Xbox Live, Ultimate, Game Pass, whatever.
Yeah, pretty much.
Mm-hmm. All right, the second story, of course, some Resident Evil stuff. That's not Resident Evil 8 stuff. So the much rumored remake of Resident Evil 4 is reportedly seeing a partial reboot at Capcom and a change of development leadership after disagreements over its direction. VideoGamesChronicle.com reports that according to the sources close to the project, core Resident Evil studio Capcom Division 1 has taken on the lead on the project, with original developer M2 seeing its role reduced. The changes could apparently lead to a 2023 release date. We don't have any sort of release date for it, so got to take that with a small grain of salt.
Yeah.
The report explains that following a project review, M2 has seen to be too faithful to the original game, with Capcom preferring that the remake takes inspirations from Resident Evil 4, but introduces new elements and features. So, this is a touchy subject because Resident Evil 4 is held as pretty much like the Resident Evil. Besides Resident Evil 2, it's like Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 4. And obviously those are connected highly. So, this rumor, again, we haven't got any confirmation that Resident Evil 4 Remake is happening. It's obviously happening. We'll probably get that, I want to say probably 2 years after we get 8 this year. So around that date kind of makes sense. 2023, 2024 is, I think, where we estimated this to begin with, because you gotta remember Resident Evil 4 has been HD'd and brought to like every gen. Like I think I own it on a physical disc for PS4, which is wild. So if M2 was really remaking this too identical, like you can't just do what Resident Evil 2 did, which was not even a shot-for-shot remake, but it was like a complete reimagining and refixing of the whole game. So that's probably the pathway they want with 4. M2 probably was just too connected to the original. We didn't want just a prettier version of 4, because 4 has really held its weight and lasted a long time. So how did you see this? How did you kind of react to this? Because I know you really enjoy Resident Evil 4.
Oh, absolutely. And I was really conflicted about it, because I feel like we've seen really faithful remakes of games that really take the core of the experience of the original and just bring it to kind of a modern lens. Mm-hmm. And what comes to mind for me, obviously, like a Medieval, Demon Souls recently, Shadows of the Colossus, that are not massive departures even from the way the games felt originally, but kind of give it a fresh coat of paint, remake it from top bottom, makes it run a little bit better. But it's again a very faithful experience. So when they were saying that M2 was trying to make a faithful recreation of 4, I was like, that could be a great thing, and I don't think that's necessarily a misstep. However, then I was quickly reminded of the fact that Resident Evil 4 had already that kind of like cleanup that already happened. So a faithful remake of Resident Evil 4 kind of exists about as much as you can do, because the controls are not that terrible in this one. And again, for me personally, Resident Evil in general hasn't had the best controls in general, but out of the ones that, from where it started, RE4 still holds up really well. So RE4 with decent controls and a nice coat of paint does exist in the form of these remasters that have gotten, again, as you mentioned, physical releases on the last gen consoles at this point. So I understand why Capcom's like, we kind of already have this. We want you guys to do something a little bit more ambitious. And so take it. They want inspiration, but not a shot for shot remake, which I can respect. I do always get nervous when development cycles are that far into development, and then they're like, all right, no, start it over again, or somebody else take on the lead. Now this could lead to great things, because that again happened with Final Fantasy VII Remake, and that turned out pretty great in my opinion. So I mean, all hope is not lost. I'm just curious to see to what extent Capcom wants the newer developers to depart from the source material. And I obviously from a narrative structure, I just wonder, are they going to introduce more like side quests and stuff like that? I just wonder, how are they going to format this in a way that takes inspiration from the original that is not necessarily the original from top to bottom. So I want to know what those changes are going to be, and ultimately we won't know for a number of years now, because obviously 8's not even out yet, let alone the RE4 remake, and I don't think they're going to try to step on their toes so much. They're going to at least give it a year of breathing room, I'd imagine. So yeah, I'm conflicted on it.
Yeah. So I'm saying, so we've gotten a Resident Evil game every year the last couple of years, right? 2, 3 was a year apart, and now 8 is. Yeah, 8's gonna be roughly a year apart. So yeah, we do need close. We do need a small break. So this 2023 release date doesn't worry me, because that is a game that will be just as important as when Resident Evil 2 remake launched. Like, that took the industry by storm. I was working at Gamestop when that launched, and I was so surprised at how many people came in and was like, I want Resident Evil. I'm like, okay, the game looks fantastic, the game runs fantastic. I know you don't play them, I know you more watch them, but I know you dabble in them at least, and that was such a faithful recreation of it, and just beautiful. And with 3 was more of a misstep, but 3 shows that they're not afraid to sort of play with canon and stuff like that. So I'm curious if that has some stuff to do with it, on maybe connecting these series a little bit more, because that's really what you did with 3, was make it really connected to and to future services. Resident Evil 8 has so much Resident Evil 4 vibe, and I know these take place in, I think, different continents at this point, the way it's going to be. But we'll see, how much of that vibe really transfers. Like, what, Resident Evil 4 is so good, and I haven't played it in a while. Maybe I'll launch it up somewhere today. But, you got to keep them separate, but you got to also make it distinct, because 8 is obviously Village is inspired by 4. Now, when 4 would come out, I'm like, well, you don't want the same feeling you just recreated in 8. You kind of want something that's nostalgic, but also brand new. And I think that's probably what they're playing with at Capcom.
Yeah, and I think they're fighting a weird battle here, where they're trying to probably provide a very seamless, high quality experience for their customers. So people are going to play 8, which is a brand new game, and then they're going to go to 4 afterwards. So this is going to be after everybody played 8, which, let's say 8 comes out and is just phenomenal and gets great reviews, just like 7 did, and people are like, oh my god, this is literally 7 in the world of 4, this is amazing, we love it. All right. And then 4 comes out, and they're in kind of a weird position where it's like, how do you remake this old game and not make it feel super old? Because again, 4 is a very Resident Evil games can be fairly linear in general, but obviously there's lots of different paths and ways you can do things. And I just wonder if like they're trying, maybe M2 wanted to do it super faithful, and they're like, that's gonna feel like a super digression coming off of 8, where you're gonna put almost 4 in a disadvantageous position, where obviously 4 to me is probably my favorite of the Resident Evil games, and they're gonna be in a position where like maybe they don't want 4 set up to feel like they got out-forward, if you know what I mean, by Village. So they're in a weird position where they're putting these two games that are gonna be compared with one another, whether they're similar or not. Obviously, I had concerns about 8 feeling too much like 4, but with the demo or the visual showcase and the trailers, you could see that they're going for a more Victorian kind of Village look, less than the grungy Spain look that the 4 had. So there are pretty massive differences between the two stylistically, which is a good thing. And obviously, 8's gonna have like, I don't know, werewolves and vampires. I love the big lady; she's awesome. She's my favorite character.
Yeah, apparently the internet loves the big lady.
I'm with him. I'm with him on that.
I forgot what her name was.
I don't know, but she's awesome. But yeah, so it's weird that they're going to be coming off of 8 with 4, and they're so stylistically similar. But again, you can say the same for 2 and 3. So I mean, it is Resident Evil has eras, and so they're kind of like kindredly connected. These, and maybe that's on purpose. Maybe they're like, right after 8, we want to go into 4, the one that inspired it, to kind of come off the momentum of a new one to push people back to another one that we think is really good at it as well. And that could do a lot of good things for Resident Evil in general as a franchise. It's just, I'm always wondering, like, where do they go from here? Like, once, okay, you remade 4, that means you've remade all the ones probably that you could remake at this point, unless you want to do a Code Veronica, but I don't know if they're trying to do all that. So they remade everything. 8 is new, so like, do they go into 9 that's like stylistically like the old ones, or they keep with the first person? I don't know. Resident Evil is such an interesting franchise to me because it's so many things to so many different people. So
yeah, it did the transition that most can't. Like when everyone found out Resident Evil 7 was, first person, very inspired by all the horror games that were super trending at the time, people were worried, but it succeeded, and that always left me wondering, can they do both? And once Resident Evil 4 comes out, I guess we'll see where that goes, because that's a full circle remake of everything. I mean, what are you gonna remake 5? I mean, come on. Come on.
Yeah, no thanks.
So it's I didn't want to play it the first time, so but we'll see. We'll see how they will end up doing this. They still won't call this Resident Evil 8. They will only call it Village, even though it is Resident Evil 8. It's a direct sequel to 7, so I don't know what that weird nonsense is. I'm sure they'll figure it out on how to do both. They're being very experimental. They're trying their hand again at multiplayer with Village. So we'll see if that somehow incorporates into the future of 4, maybe adding some multiplayer that works or doesn't work. Hopefully not, because Resident Evil 3's multiplayer wasn't good. So
yeah, it makes me wonder, like, is there intent for Resident Evil to kind of Assassin's Creed it a little bit, which is you have unique experiences from game to game with single threads connecting them, as opposed to some hard linear narrative like they used to have? And that's what I wonder, because obviously Resident Evil had a very linear, fixed, understandable narrative for many games. And I feel like 5, it loosened up a little bit. 6, it kind of came back. And then you can kind of see those 6 games as like a locked linear story. And 7 made the jump of where it's connected, and there are story threads that connect to the previous 6, but it's a looser thread. And so they basically are taking this universe and putting it through a brand new lens that almost feels like a completely distinct universe in and of itself. And now 8 looks like it's going to do a very similar thing. Again, with connections, Ethan's there too, so there's a direct connection to 7. But like, I'm not looking at this game and seeing Umbrella. You know what I mean? I don't see Wesker living in a castle here. So this is a very different direction. And so it makes me wonder, going forward, are they going to have like Resident Evil tagline here that is a completely unique experience, playing around with different horror conventions, different visual styles, completely different type of narrative, but with loose connections to the previous ones to kind of bring these all together as a single franchise? And that, it seems like it's going in that direction. I just wonder how the player base is going to react to that. When, again, it gets looser and looser and looser to the point where they have a game that eventually is probably going to be like, how is this Resident Evil? And people are going to love it, but people are going to be like, how is this in the same franchise? So I have my eye on that franchise, because it's always been so interesting to me. Because there's so many times where I'm like, what are they doing? Especially when like 5 happened, coming off of 4, I'm like, what the hell are they doing? And 6, I'm like, okay, that's something. And then 7 completely changed. So every game now, I'm like, I don't know what the hell's going on.
Yeah, for the best, what to expect.
Yeah, for the good or for the worst. I'm always very optimistic in that franchise. I never know what they're doing, and that's probably a good thing.
It's working out for them so far.
So the next story we have is one that was actually kind of disappointing to me. And this is about Vicarious Visions being merged into Blizzard. So we heard about an acquisition sometime before, but this is now we're getting some more information about it. So Activision Blizzard has confirmed that Vicarious Visions, the developer behind such titles as Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2 and the Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy, is officially being merged into Blizzard Entertainment. As reported by GamesIndustry.biz, the Vicarious Visions team of about 200 people will now be full employees of Blizzard and are fully dedicated to existing Blizzard games and initiatives. This means that Vicarious Visions will no longer be creating games as the lead developer. So yeah, they're getting fully integrated. This means we'll see them probably attached to stuff more like a Diablo, for example. And this was super disappointing to me, because I feel like everyone knows that Vicarious Visions are incredibly talented, and that Blizzard makes really high quality experiences. It's not like they're going into things that their talents won't be used, but I feel like Vicarious Visions, the cool thing about them is they have a very unique talent that many teams have tried and not succeeded in, which is they can take these older games and make something so amazing out of them. And they just are masters of that fun arcade vibe of that kind of PS2, PS1 generation, and bringing them to the modern game industry in a way that feels fresh, feels new, but at the same time strikes at that nostalgia. And so few teams are able to do that. And the fact that they won't be able to fully take advantage of that now in their new roles is really upsetting, because again, what Blizzard is doing, they're making incredible games, but I feel like there's lots of teams that they can integrate of high quality and high talents that can probably fill these roles, and that Vicarious Visions are so unique that to not allow them to be able to take advantage of that to the fullest extent is kind of a waste of their potential, in my opinion. And I mean this in the nicest way, obviously. Like, I'm not trying to crap on Blizzard, but I'm just saying, like, is this the best use of their specific talents? I would imagine no, but it is what it is. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, this was super disappointing. Obviously, I was hoping Vicarious Visions would be doing something else in the vein of what they've been doing. You know, they did an amazing job with Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy. They practically rebooted the franchise. You know, they did Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2, and they didn't do Nitro Kart, I don't believe.
No, they didn't.
No, that was Beanox. But, you know, I kind of had a feeling something was up, because I watched an interview with some people from Vicarious Visions, and they were asked, you know, what about Tony Hawk, 3 and 4? Are you guys going to do a sort of collection for those two as well, and then kind of send that off? Because, with Crash Bandicoot, they did the 3 games, and they sent off Crash Bandicoot. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater isn't really done, because 3 and 4, which are held, pretty highly, are kind of in limbo now. And the thought was, well, Vicarious Visions has the engine, they have everything, they have the experience, they probably can recreate a 3 to 4. But they would always kind of dodge that question, and that's obviously because this was in the works. Now, the big thing is, obviously they're being put on. It's not confirmed, but it's all but confirmed that they're going to be on the Diablo 2 remake, which has been in limbo forever. And I just don't think that's really something they need to do. Again, I don't know what the team looks like there. Maybe they're all excited to go there. Just Blizzard is not the most highly regarded company right now. They're everything they've been through, and the missteps they have all over the place, and the fact that they take forever to release a game, whether it's good or not good, it's kind of annoying. It's really dumb. I don't think this, like you said, this is not, I think, the most active and best way to use Vicarious Visions. Like, literally, you could give them a new IP, keep them on this sort of nostalgia remake thing that's working for them. Instead, you're going to give them Diablo 2 remake, assumingly, and Diablo 2 is not going to come out and break the sell more than most of these things. And Diablo's always been a PC thing, and Vicarious Visions obviously knows how to work really well with the consoles, so it's really disappointing to see. And they're being folded in out. I wonder if they're even gonna hold their name. Are we gonna even see their name on Diablo 2? Because Blizzard likes to be like the only guys, like to be all over the place. So it's really disappointing to see. But if, I don't know, maybe everyone got a big raise for joining into Blizzard, and that works out for them better. They obviously were looked at because of how great they did with these other 2 games. These are from the ground up remakes. So it sucks for us as this, but maybe it helps them. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, as you mentioned, who knows? They might be happy about this, for all I know. Yeah. Wait, what are you trying to say? You're not excited for them to work on Overwatch 2?
I mean, ain't nobody want Overwatch 2, man. All the
Overwatch
content,
2.
all the content they haven't released. I don't know either. I don't know how the Overwatch community is doing that, because that's a whole nother rant. Because the multiplayer is the same, so you're really paying for some single player nonsense that nobody really wants anymore. I wanted single player content in Overwatch from the get go. I'm not gonna do it now. I don't care for these characters now. I don't know who they are, what they want.
Winston,
here's a big gorilla with glasses. So you're gonna get Vicarious Visions to be doing that kind of stuff, and I just hope they're being utilized completely, not doing menus and stuff, because they obviously are way beyond that.
Before we move on, I'm not gonna let you get away with that, Blizzard. I didn't forget when you randomly announced something that obviously didn't exist to take the heat off you with that Hong Kong controversy. I remember you, Blizzard.
Yeah, don't forget who these people are. They also their latest release was a botch, I want to say.
Over at Blizzard?
Yeah, whatever they just released It's been a while, but I don't remember what it was. And it was terrible. It was supposed to be a remake. They lied about the remake. They lied about all this cut content, and people were doing all this crazy things. I can look it up really quick. And so that's what I'm saying. We can't forget who's actually running this reins now. Like, Blizzard doesn't have... Because that whole, all that Hong Kong stuff where there's... Well, let's announce some random stuff that nowhere near ready.
It didn't exist. They had a cutscene. And then they're just like, okay, so when is this coming? And they're just like, I don't know, Overwatch 2. Here's the trailer. Watch the trailer again. It's like, I saw that. That was sick.
It looked terrible. I just didn't understand it. And
that's the wildest way I've seen to run from a controversy. When you're being rightfully criticized about your reaction to a particular international issue that's going on right now, and your reaction is just to announce a new game to take the heat off it, which, mind you, people have not been talking about, so it didn't really work. But naturally, I think because of the way the game industry cycle works, that story naturally faded over time, and that was wild.
It was the World of Warcraft, Warcraft 3 Reforged. Which was the remake. Okay. It came out terrible.
People didn't like it?
Yeah, they showed a lot of like trailers that wasn't what ended up being the final product. Graphics looked terrible. They said they were remaking cutscenes. That all got cut. Bunch of cut content. Bunch of shifty. It's at this point it's known to be Blizzard stuff. So I just hope that doesn't bleed into Vicarious Visions.
Well, God bless them. Best of luck. I feel like ultimately this is speculative. We're gonna take a hit for this. I think this is a waste of a team personally, but we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah, you could have given them anything else. I understand Activision kind of owns Vicarious Visions, which them and Blizzard are all kind of one thing. Yeah. But the fact that they announced this as a big folding merged into it, I'm like, man, we lost them.
Unnecessary.
We lost them. The fact is, I'm not buying Diablo 2. I don't care. And if you've shown anything, is you guys aren't prepared to release games correctly, and showing Overwatch 2, I can't believe it. Overwatch 2.
Unless they add a Tony Hawk skin, I'm not playing.
Exactly. All right, so the last story is a little interesting one, because it's man, what a weird nonsense it was going on. So the GameStop stock. The GameStop stock saw its stocks jump to an all-time high of $76.76 per share today at the time of this. Compared to a year ago when it was trending at as low $3 a share. The 80% surge today from its allegedly upward trending $43 per share opening price forced GameStop to temporarily halt trading, according to Bloomberg. According to IGN's article on the GameStop stock has been trending upward all January, but behind the scenes, the reasoning for the jump has less to do with GameStop's actual business performances and more to do with the fight between short sellers like Citron Research and the subreddit. Short selling is a strategy where an investor will borrow a stock, exchange for an IOU. Then they can sell the stock for a set price, let's say $20, shares for $400. The stock could then lose value, and the investor can buy back 20 shares for $300. Then they'll return the 20 shares back to the original stock owner and pocket the extra 100. Basically, it's a back and forth of speculative stock nonsense and profiteering. That all comes from the IGN article that we'll have linked below.
Yeah.
Man, what a nonsense. For some people, they thought GameStop's on the rise. It's doing great. I'm like, listen, they just closed 300 stores. I just went to my GameStop I used to work at. They're gone. They're closed.
Are they?
Yeah, they closed that. That whole mall's closing. But that GameStop is closed. Most of the employees laid off. No option to transfer. The guy who was running the store is going to take a severance pay, and that's it. GameStop's not doing that well. It looks fine, and profits, they're not doing well enough for their stock to jump almost twofold in retrospect. So obviously I knew there had to be some weird nonsense going on. I was looking for some sort of announcement that someone joined the board, whatever it was, and nothing. So how'd you react to this? Because we know GameStop's really suffering.
Well, yeah. So, before I start saying anything, let me be clear. I don't necessarily understand all the stock stuff. I'm not going to even pretend like I understand all this stuff. So I read the IGN article multiple times. I'm like, I'm not great with economics specifically. I understand broader trends, but like the whole trading back and forth thing, I don't understand. But yeah, this seems like some weird like it looks like some kind of inflation's going on because the people on Reddit are messing with this company and they're going back and forth with each other. So it's nuts that I didn't even know something like this could happen. And so yeah, you got some people who are like looking at this and it's like, oh, is GameStop built for a comeback? And it's like, oh, believe me, they are not. I mean, surprisingly enough, they made it to next gen. So they made it to the PS5 and Xbox launch. So I know they saw a little boost in profits there. And there's probably still seeing as they get more and more allotments of consoles. But I mean, again, people have been saying this for a long time. Like, GameStop's going to die one way or another. Whether they like it or not, they know. It's just a matter of like when and how long they can hold things out. I remember they had this massive expansion project. You remember where they were going to do all these different types of like esports and different types of stuff, and they were dying at the same time. And then obviously COVID hit, so they're in a position right now where like I'm just curious to do once the vaccinations come back. Like, theoretically, you would imagine, based on their plans, they should come back in mass too and be opening a whole bunch of stores. But I see nothing but a shrinking store market on their end, which, again, they were overexpanded to begin with. I mean, there were GameStops across the street from GameStops, so they're over-leveraged to begin with. I don't know why there were so many to begin with. But, yeah, I mean, this company is not going to make it out of this generation. There's no chance in hell. The digital games market has already past the 50% of the market. Not to mention, now we have digital only consoles that are being bought at a higher rate than ever before. Digital only consoles existed in the past, but you've never had a sizable portion of the player base being willing to just forego discs in general. Because again, people are so desperate to get this console in any form that they can, that they're like, screw it. If I don't have the disc, I don't have the disc. And so GameStop is obviously going to take a hit there that they've never taken before, which is just a sizable portion of the game industry with no options but to go completely digital. So God bless them. Have fun. I hope whoever they can make a little bit profits in the short term while this little game works or whatever. But the GameStop's over.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. People saw this and was like, "Oh my god, they're doing." I'm like, "No, guys," and I'm not an insider. I went to my old store, asked the manager what's going on, how are things, and besides like the 300 stores that are closed at this point, I think the deadline was sometime this week. It was by the end of January. 300 stores had to be closed. Apparently, there's like a secret list of 100 that are being closed that they don't want to reveal because I guess their stock will drop like crazy. Obviously, if they announce that they're closing 100 more stores, so it's like, yeah. When I saw this, I was like, it can't be. And I'm not insider trading. I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, it can't be. Then I saw the reason why the stock doubled, and I'm like, I know the basics of stocks, and I was like, man, that sounds illegal for sure.
Right?
Sure. That's borrowing some shares, selling it, buying a bunch more, and then giving it back. I'm like, that sounds illegal, and that's why it all went to a stop, and they had to freeze everything like that. But I don't know. The time to buy GameStop stock was when it was like $3 a share. And you would have made $40 when it went up to 40, but it's not going much higher. I doubt it.
But yeah, well, I mean, that's the funny thing though about if one industry they could get away with all this skeevy, below the board, technical loophole stuff and actually keep the profits, it's Wall Street. They're like, that's like the one place you can do this. So it's like one of those things where I read this, I'm like, how is this not illegal? I'm like, oh, because it's Wall Street. And half of what they do sounds like stuff that should be illegal that are technically not. So this is hilarious. I hope nobody saw this and like, I worry sometimes for like just the average person who were like, oh, GameStop's doing well. Let me buy a whole bunch of stocks right now because they're doing so well. And this thing's about to tank and they don't know it. Like, that's what worries me.
The thing is, let's say you bought it at the almost $80. It's gonna drop quickly.
That's about as high as it's ever gonna be.
It's gonna drop pretty quickly, and it's gonna be worrisome. The next gen spike is over. The only reason their profits look good now is because they literally just cut, like I keep saying, all these stores and all these employees and all this money and all this warehouse space. They just cut all that, so obviously their profits look good.
Yeah. Their overhead is gone. So.
Yeah, all that overhead is gone. I'm like, yeah, you close the margin, and obviously you had a small push from next gen, but at the same time, you guys didn't have that many next gen consoles to sell. So it's very interesting, but yeah, it was just a weird story. What a wild time.
Well, best of luck to him, and I hope nobody got burned in the process. That's my only concern, is because I know there's like been a push lately for like the average Joe to get involved in investing and stuff like that, and they have all these investing apps right now. And I'm like, I hope nobody saw this on like Bloomberg or something like that. And it's like, oh, and now I'm gonna buy in like crazy, and they're gonna get super burned. I worry about that sometimes, but hopefully, if you're investing, you keep your eye on the pulse of things way before you ever put your money into these companies. Make any impulse buys or anything like that, because the buy low, sell high principle, like you got to be careful when you have deeply volatile companies like GameStop right now, who are literally on their deathbed, and they just have found a way to delude people into thinking they're not.
Yeah, at any moment, like the story will break that GameStop's closed or bought out by someone, and they've been. I worked GameStop was like 4 years ago, so we had like 3 different offers from big companies to pretty much save GameStop, and they refused. So.
Yeah,
I don't know why, but they refused, and now they're paying for it.
Yeah, and it's a shame because below all these funny stories, like we're talking about hundreds and hundreds of people losing their jobs, which is just an absolute shame. And I know, especially like a lot of young people in our community and stuff like that, and in the gaming space and stuff like that, that's like an important way for a lot of people to make their money and get into the game industry the best way they can and stuff like that. And the fact that this is kind of falling apart, like I think we'd be remiss to not mention the human component behind all this, where it's like it's fun with like the stocks and stuff like that, and are they gonna make it, they're gonna do an esports version and stuff like that, and it's all funny, but like it's important to remember, like below this, like we're talking about tons of some older people, a lot of young people losing their jobs for good, and it's gonna be tough because again, these are retail jobs. It's not easiest to jump from like one retail job, into something way more profitable than that. So I hope everybody lands on their feet, and everybody has time. And if you're working at GameStop right now, please try to find something to fall on, because I don't think it's gonna last too long. You're either gonna be one of those stores that get closed down right now as they shrink, or you're gonna be in one of the stores that close when this whole thing falls down. So.
Yeah, I'm hoping people don't really rely on it. Like I had 2 people who worked for GameStop for 10 years, and again, no option for anything. No, they never had 401k, retirement plan, nothing. So they're getting like 11 weeks severance, and that's it, which is sad. With these people who a decade, you gave this company a decade and have nothing to show for it.
And this isn't like Tesla. Severance pay. Like, these are not massive corporate positions where you're bringing in thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars that you can be set for a year, 2 years on this. This is a retail severance, so like a lot of people are being burned in this process, which is such a shame. And I just feel like this whole company was mishandled for so long, and I mean the writing was on the wall for a long time, and they should have been adapting earlier than they had, and they were trying to make changes, but in the words of JoJo, too little too late, as I have to quote. But yeah, so that's all the stories we got for you guys this week. It was a good week. It looks like the kind of like story rotations going back into swing, because things were dying for a while. Things were dry as hell for those few weeks at the end of December into early January. But finally, games are going to be coming out. Stories going to be happening, and don't forget, Cyberpunk's off in the horizon. More stories are coming out of that. So I'm gonna send you this video. There's this video of there's this YouTuber I just want to plug real quick, like Crowby Cat or something like that. I don't know exactly how it's pronounced, but they make amazing edits of just game industry related stuff. And I'm gonna send this to you, Steve, after we're done. And it's like an hour long, and it does such a perfect top to bottom, front to back encapsulation of the Cyberpunk experience, from like when they announced it to what it became, to the whole marketing thing, to the statement that they released recently. I'm gonna send it to you. It's amazing. No narration, just their words, real footage from the game, no narratives or anything. I'm gonna send it to you. It's amazing. And I'm gonna try to link it down in the comment section down below, because I want people to watch this, because man, if you need something to entertain you lately and there's no shows that are entertaining you, I got something for you that you can burn 40 minutes on. So this was the NeoVintage podcast. I'm Jabrel, and I'm with
Steve. Hope you guys enjoyed,
and we'll see you guys next week.